um, entity of people who are working in there. How do you think that government can successfully maybe maneuver around that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the point of making a new Botswana, I think the
Yeah.
government was super clear of they want to have a new beginning, right?
Yes,
A new way of action. And I think if in the way that they want to start, right, with the restructuring and sort of like a reset of a new beginning, a
yes.
restructure in their procurement model, if they can take some of the of benchmarks of other countries or even in the private sector where you can really connect technology with a new behavior and a new way of setting the model of how you procure your service. I think the government can really earn a different view, but I think it was more of setting up the stage and understanding that this is a work process that requires a bit of time to actually drive some change within the existing model, the model that has been for so many years before this new government arrived.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How long do you think such reforms can really take? Because maybe if we put in the factor of election cycles, there were promises just about a month ago when we left for elections. Now, we know that 5 years is just right
It's
around the
too,
corner.
it's too short.
Do
Yeah.
you think we could have achieved some of these reforms by then?
Yeah, I think so, but it depends how it will be structured. And one of it, they need to start workshopping people and making sure that they do effective transfers, because it's also very hard to just fire people. I mean, they still need to live. And I think the sort of education will help us in a way to be, and they must also, the high office, lead by examples. And if you put that stringent method in place, I do believe that people normally follow the leader. Yes.
Because like he tried to really highlight vividly is the issue of the procurement systems, inefficiencies and all of that, that if they do the reforms like we are trying to say, that then they need to operate within a certain culture, a certain culture of people. He went on to highlight that one of the biggest problems that we have as a country is that you have wealth and opportunities concentrated in a few market players and all the likes. How do you think we can achieve this? Quite interestingly, he pinpointed out sectors like the poultry sector, the retail sector, the automobile industry. Botswana is such a small country, we know exactly what he means. So if he really wants to decentralize opportunities in those key areas, how bad do you think it can disrupt our markets and economy? Can we survive this as a country?
I mean, on my opinion would be that it takes a little bit of time. Probably within 5 years, I think they will be able to accomplish it. But they really need to be determined of adjusting and using the technology to really make centralized procurement process to be limited to the amount of people that can actually interact with. So then at the end, with the change, because changing behavior takes a lot of time, and then I believe that it's probably the longer process. So with a good combination of a clear guidance on a structure, on technology, and then follow it up by addressing the behavioral changes, I think they can have a winning equation. But we'll have to see how they can best do that.
Yes. In terms of insurance, from an insurance perspective, what do you think can be done?
Yeah, I mean, on the insurance side, we remain on standby just to make sure that the customers are protected, to make sure that the banks are protected, and the business themselves. Beyond that, for us to be able to take the risk is quite determined by the management, because we can't just also get a risk that is not managed,
So as an issue, foreign direct investment, I want to get into your point by saying that when he mentioned foreign direct investment, and he mentioned that there needs to be ease of doing business and removing a lot of red tapes, which is sometimes quite the biggest challenge when people want to come and invest in our country. I want to say this to you from an insurance perspective, and as a business that's really growing.
Yes.
Obviously, you are attracting investments into your business. How is your experience with the red tapes in that aspect?
The red tape has been very bad, actually.
Yes.
Just, I mean, this is my second chance registering an insurance company from scratch. I
Yes.
mean, it takes about 6 to a year to get a license. I mean,
Jesus.
one thing is, then it takes away an opportunity of investors coming in.
Yes.
It actually not only affects the outsiders, even the people from inside, just trying to make up their living as entrepreneurs. They end up losing confidence and abandoning the ideas. So it's actually a bad thing. But I'm happy that they want to, to streamline
Yes,
the process.
Nice.
And I mean, if we can have agencies actually out there, as we invite investors, they should be able to offer the solutions.
And I assume because Airbnb is the biggest shareholder in KBL since the last acquisition and whatnot, I'll call that foreign direct investment. What is your view on such a subject matter?
So, I mean, for us, and let me be super frank and clear. We want to continue investing for the next 100 years in Botswana. All right.
Yes.
For us, it's a very key market, right? With around these red tapes, right? I mean, it is something that if we look at the current policy situation where we have burdens like our levy being one of the countries in the world that has this levy on top of the excise tax, which is 35%, really put a detriment on the way the foreign investment can actually drive or be driven, as well as this fiscal marking that he mentioned that is also going to put a lot of burden and trying to fix a problem. They say they have a problem of illicit trade, when the reality is that according to some of the studies that we have, and that we're asking them to confirm whether that really is the big problem, when we see that no more than 2-3% of the total alcohol industry has an illicit trade. So having said that, right, we as KBL, right, are continuing the investment. We're actually putting a new plant of beer powder, local beer powder, to produce and localize the sourcing of that into Botswana. We're probably going to finalize in the next 3 to 4 months. We will continue driving other investments in our clear beer business, as long as the supportive regulation and the policies actually help us to continue driving that. And then the other actions that we're also taking connected with our corporate social responsibility is really on the energy side, right? To really drive sustainability by implementing solar panel energy in our plants, in order to actually drive and generate finally generate some energy back to the grid. So for us, right, as long as the policy regulation help us to drive and to allow foreign investment, we will continue investing in this country, like I said, for the next 100 years.
So what's your take on this, basically, on the FDI? Sometimes increasing taxes has a way also of restricting investors from coming into the country. Usually they say the most efficient way sometimes is to give foreign direct investors maybe tax breaks or lesser stringent tax figures. What do you think? Do you think this could have an impact or scare
No, it will.
investors a little bit?
No, it will definitely have a serious impact, because normally the way you should attract investors is to be able to give them those advantages over tax, and then they will consider the investment. So it's going to be very difficult, I mean, for them to realize, as much as in the region we seems to be still on the lower side, but it will affect people coming here to invest.
I think generally the vice president, who's also the minister of finance, was really trying to give us a good story and a good picture. But it was really tough. I could see even from how he was cushioning the language, trying to give us a message of hope, but really the figures were disagreeing with him. Do you think that we could be able to to move into the green if we raise our revenue using 1.5 tax breaks, obviously amongst other things that government will implement to raise funds, hoping that the diamond market will hit a turnaround. Do you think that 1.5 taxation could really rescue us? Can we make it to 2025 having replenished our coffers again, Mr. Bennett? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a tougher environment than what it was predicted. This 1.5% increase on corporate tax doesn't necessarily help the action that they want to really bring in terms of expanding the economy and growing. If I remember correctly, the figures were minus 3% GDP decline in 2024 to try to convert it into 3% projected GDP growth for 2025 to 2026, right? Making it these actions and using the corporate tax, but also using other type of taxes that I don't think that is the right approach to be able to manage the deficit that they have in the budget, but rather to really, to their points, to promote the economy growth and to promote the foreign investment and the continued existing investment is towards having a much more open conversation with the private sector to really drive and having the private sector to be part of the consultation to drive those tax policies and those actions that they really want to present in the next 6 months.
Quite interesting, because when we talk about this, I'll take it back to the unemployment issue. You have 38.4% recorded unemployment. It's
just too high.
It's too high. It's really too high. So I wonder, given all of these circumstances, when you look at it, almost every paragraph, the Minister of Finance was saying decline, indicators that the economy is really in bad shape. And we have this unemployment which has increased. Actually, it was increasing from 27.6 in 2024 to the figure that is given now, that is 38.4. It's a stark reality. Do you really think that we can be able to turn around things? What can we do to reduce unemployment?
I think really we should be more innovative, and maybe through small and medium enterprises. I mean, we shouldn't just rely on people looking for an employment. People must try to initiate things, and the government must assist so that they can build the small enterprises then to fit to the major thing. Yeah.
Could it not be that government sometimes needs to offload some of its key services, maybe not key services, but a lot of services that can now be pushed to the private sector?
I fully agree, but the big problem is also funding, and I don't see how a small business or an university graduate is able to start without the government even guaranteeing some of these processes. That's a non-starter. I mean, we have tried it, and as he said, he's talked about CEDA and something even bigger than CEDA. So we are hoping that that is the only way for a small economy like Botswana to thrive. But I think in my thinking here, as much as we also work for ourselves or try to set up companies, we struggle with the market, and we still want Botswana to help us either through SADC or other regions so that there's a market.
I feel like 1.5% is too little.
It's
It should
just
have
nothing.
3%, especially at top earner side. Obviously, I'm being aggressive here, but here's my point. Our economic disparity is very high in Botswana. You have the poorest of poorest people, and the gap is very high. And rich people are extremely rich in this country, and we know that. And when he started in saying that opportunities are always circulating in one bracket of people, he's definitely taxing exactly those same people who are always the ones taking all the opportunities.
Yes.
And I'm challenging to say maybe they should be taxed at 3%. What is your take?
Yeah, I agree, but tax, as he said, really, tax is not going to resolve this. So we must look at bigger things and be more intentional about it. I mean, right now, if you go to the private sector or the banks, actually, as a starter, it's always very difficult. As you say, those opportunities are rather given to the bigger guys. So they must be looking at policies, how they're going to enable the young people or the small businesses to grow. Because I still believe there's an opportunity in us setting up small companies.
Yes.
And if I can add,
Yes.
Lawrence, to what Victor's saying, I think also the diversity on our economy and trying for Botswana to release the dependency on the diamond sector, as he mentioned, right? The programs of the agricultural programs, right? It's something that really, if the government believes on the diversification of the economy, that's where I believe they need to start, not only on the agricultural sector, but also on other sectors that can actually be able to diversify and dynamize the economy. For example, for us, we're actually testing already, we're doing trials on localizing our sourcing. We actually import 85% of our raw materials is imported, and now we actually doing already trials in certain areas on sorghum to be able to actually invest on this and be able to localize the sourcing. We will continue in other projects as well to try to drive and prepare the suppliers, the local suppliers, to be able to reach to the quality that is required for a company, skill transfer, right? As it is for a company like AB InBev, or in this case KBL, right?
Yes.
So I think that's the part. And then if we combine those actions with a much more supportive regulatory scheme and system, I think they can have a winning situation for expanding their economy and diversifying the risk on the economy that today and the last 20 years or more has been fully dependent on the diamond sector.
That's quite interesting. And actually, when diamonds are not performing well, we can see what is happening, like it has been happening in the past previous months, or almost the whole of last year. He spoke about trying to turn around our country to become an export-led economy. From your thinking, or from maybe the things that you have seen, what do you think are the lowest hanging fruits of things that we can export as a country? Beer?
Yeah, manufacturing. I mean,
Yes.
there could be beer, depending which sector within manufacturing is doing very well. But I think, if possible, we can export the skill, actually. If our people are well trained, I heard him talking about technical knowledge and vocational schools, and I want to assume that is also to support the upcoming setups. But we should be able to, I mean, if you travel the world, you hardly see any Botswana there, either working there or setting up a company. But if you come to Botswana, you find a lot of other people from elsewhere. So that has always given me pressure as an individual to wonder, how is this company going to compete if it's only one-sided and we are not able to take up other challenges?
And have branches in other economies so that you can be able to diversify. I heard they say having one source of income is also an extreme sport. So what do you think are the lowest hanging
I mean,
fruits?
I will probably go back to the agricultural sector. I think there is opportunity there, but especially I agree with Victor, the manufacturing side, right? But if I remember correctly from the Vice President on the budget speech around how to drive the innovation and the local talent, I think that part, it's super important, because I think Botswana needs to realize how talented they are, right? And how they can really transfer the skill, not only from exporting good or service type of view, but also the talent that they can actually contribute to the economy outside of Botswana within Africa and globally. And I also think that there is an important industry like the hospitality and tourism, where that can really be completely driven beyond what we currently Botswana have, in order to attract much more visitors and tourists into the country, but by exporting the beautiful lands that Botswana has, especially the Maun, the Kasani, the Delta Kavango, and many other attractions that can really benefit and bring the income and the funds that the government is looking for.
That's quite interesting. I wonder how we are really going to achieve that. By coincidence as well, tourism is one industry that is dominated by players from outside. Not to say it is bad, but really sometimes you want to really put a lot of indigenous Botswana there. Do you think that, maybe taken from his point, it is something that we can achieve, considering the sensitivity of the tourism industry itself?
No, he's right. Tourism and agriculture for me is my next hope, actually. Agriculture in the sense that there has been progress in food processing, if you like. I mean, he's talked about BMC. It's another area that if we're really going to focus in the things that an ordinary Botswana can be part of the chain, then it will uplift the lives of all. I mean, hospitality, there's an opportunity, as you say, because in the past it was maybe for foreigners, and if Botswana can package themselves also to go there, either into the Delta. I mean, yesterday I went to Shumbalala Lodge, Game Lodge. It's new. It's in Sandveld. It is quite amazing how they're building the Delta now closer to Gaborone, you know, and it's owned by Botswana, you know. So I think we need to start focusing. We need to do research and development and see the things that are going to work. You know, I mean, as the country, for me, we have always had issues of implementation. Sometimes we've got ideas, but we don't know how to go about it. I mean, even the government tries.
The issue of red tape that we discussed earlier, you find that I will never get any opportunity that otherwise certain people will do have, and they are always getting a better advantage on the playing field and all the likes. Maybe if he mentions it that it is government's priority to try and level the playing field, maybe there is hope that we can also establish a competitor to KBL
for sure
and start brewing alcohol. I mean, we have to dream, Botswana. But you see, the biggest take home for me personally that I heard him say, I wanted to leave it for, save it for last, is introducing the VAT on the digital trade. Those are your Facebooks, your Googles, your social media and whatnot. It's overdue. So I don't know maybe how we can be able to implement that, because I've seen countries like US, Canada and Australia fighting with big tech companies to try and implement this. We are going to into the ring with the big boys now here. So I don't know, maybe from your view, is this something that can be achievable?
I'm not sure if it's achievable, but I think it should be tried. Because that's another area that is not, that's untapped. That should easily be hanging fruits in terms of bolstering our revenue, you know, during this perilous times.
What do you think, sir?
I mean, I think it's it needs to be approached. I firmly believe that in the sovereignty of the country and in the decisions of the laws that they implement, you have already benchmarked in other countries around the world where these services are actually being taxed. So I think it's definitely doable. I think it needs to be, as the Vice President said, that they need to really drive it. However, what I can say from a private sector point of view is that the definition of the laws and in terms of the tax and the VAT and how it's going to be executed, it's extremely as relevant as defining the level playing, right?
And I love it because at the same time, I don't know, I quite observed that in the hierarchy of things he was listing when he started, he spoke about creatives before land, and I was quite impressed because the creative spaces are mostly on the digital spaces, and that's where a lot of youth where you can untap opportunities to lessen unemployment. But if you also go and fetch that money from Google and whatnot, maybe we can be able to start moving somewhere over
Correct.
there. But let me have your last words before we can wrap it up. I have the Assistant Minister of Health waiting to join us so that we can also exchange to understand what it is that is saying. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I'm bullish about the complexities that we find ourselves in. So
Yes.
it means we must transform.
Yes.
We must transform our businesses
Yes.
so that we can be innovative and customer centric,
Yes.
and be accessible. You know,
Yes.
so just to make sure that we offer the services.
Thank you very much,
All right.
Rev Victor Noi. Here's Rev Victor Noi from Lord Insurance. Say,
And from
how do
us,
you want me to part with you here? Yes.
yeah, I mean, from our end, Lawrence, I mean, I think it's clear from KBL and from the beer sector that we need to really work together with the government in trying to find the best regulatory policies and process in order to foster the investment and be part of that expansion in the economy to try to diversify from the mineral or in this case from the diamond dependency, as well as to really work and support the government in terms of the plans and the agri-project plans in order to drive the economy and supporting the local sourcing in order for KBL and
Okay.
for the beer sector to remain for the next 100 years in Botswana. And that's what we want to drive.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Leba Ikutlwesi, we're just exchanging, trying to analyze and see that KBL and the insurance industry, what it is that they were taking from the budget there, the Honorable Vice President, who's also the Finance Minister, Renda Bagaolatle. But I guess we'll continue engaging with them as we go along. Let me go for a quick break.
Whoa! She's the first lady to hit over the fence, to hit a tent over the fence.
Thank you for staying tuned there. It's been one hell of a day. As you can see behind me in the Parliament backdrop, there is a lot of human activity going in there. To come and hear the inaugural budget presentation of the new government, the UDC government. There's been quite a lot of changes. There's been quite heavy anxiety in the air. His Honor, the Vice President, who is also the Minister of Finance, so I believe that today, Nalilona, we are going to have quite a lot of engagements with different people. I'm joined in the studio by the Assistant Minister of Health, namesake Lorenzo Keritse. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah,
I'm doing
great. You
fine.
should say
Yeah.
Lorenzo Kidis of Natagweta to differentiate.
We are always fighting about that. People always confuse me for you or you for me. So we have to clear this today. Why?
I'm glad. I'm glad you're not a thief. Others get
Yeah, because we were live, can you kindly introduce yourself to my guests?
Yeah, Laune Ranka from Kanye West.
From
Kanye.
Kanye.
Yes.
Yes, please introduce the gentleman. Kids, or what is your working relationship?
Yeah. All right. No, but my working relationship with him.
Hey. Okay, he's not coming from your office.
No, it's not
It's
from my
fine. I
office.
wasn't debriefed because we are live.
Yeah.
Horahoro will just go with it face to face. It is
Yeah.
what it is. Reo Keritse is the Assistant Minister of Health. Ke hetsa go utlwa budget ya ga renda. I don't know how I'm feeling.
Right.
I'm still as anxious as before.
Right.
Because I had a lot of words, decline. There's a couple of few good things that I had there that made me excited and happy. But obviously, so that now we in.
So ke gore a mme go tile re tla neela molemo. Re swantse gore re sekaseke gore do we have a framework that is going to take the country out of the abyss into the promised land? So I think the minister has done quite well in terms of telling you the state of the economy and then the state of the economy in the short to medium term. But then also coming up with a plan that says, given this, I have a 4-stage plan that will then take us out of the problems and then lead us eventually to where we are supposed to be. If you look into the biggest issue, part of it is in discipline in terms of spending. But then now you have a person who comes in and says, look, I know we've promised many things, but then the economy as it is cannot sustain some of these things. But for now, first we plug the hole. That is where a lot of the money is going down the drain.
Especially in the procurement systems that he spoke about. I think he quite dwelled on that point. For a long time, they're trying to speak about the reforms and the culture change of the people who are working there.
Because that is why we are where we are today. So that for me was instructive. If you can look into it and say, why are we in trouble?
To be blunt, it opened doors for corruption.
Thank you.
Yes.
So that is where I think we are. So I am optimistic because we know where the problem is and there's commitment to sort it out. Yeah.
So tell me, Keritse, maybe just paint or give me bullet points. Just make it simple for me.
Right.
The solutions at the top of my head. Could be their text. Could be their reforms. Maybe give me 4 or 5 things.
Right. So I think the key thing for me is the honesty that says we are in a budget a heavy deficit.
Yes.
Necessarily so, right?
Yes.
And then also moving from a deficit, you are moving now to a position where you are saying, despite the deficit, we are going to not quite affect the day-to-day lives. We are going to continue with the recurrent budgets, expenditure, it will still afford you your normal life in terms of like your salaries and everything else.
Yes.
And then also from there, despite the deficit, we are only going to then increase tax for the highest earners.
For the high earners, yeah.
And then also for for companies by only just about over 1.5 or so %, which basically still maintains the tax bracket So we are in tough times, but we are not passing on the cost to the rest of our people. These are people who are earning, he's at the top. It's your top maybe 1%.
Which scale?
Of earners. I'll have to confirm that for you properly. But it's like you're looking at like the top earners. So everybody else remains largely exempt. I'll give you the paper so that you can like confirm the figures for yourself.
Okay. Wait, and the 4. Maybe I just want us to capture one item because I want him to weigh in.
Exactly. So I've given you the tax, right?
Oh, yes,
I've given you the recurrent budget continuing in relatively a smooth and stable fashion.
Okay.
And then from there, you look always, when you go through difficult times, you also look at the most vulnerable of your people.
Yes.
The first group would be your pensioners and your elderly because they shoulder the burden of taking care of Bana and everybody else.
Yes, increasing
They've
that
had an
pension,
increment at 1,400, which is not the 1.8, but it actually says, it's a signal that says We want to do it, and we'll get to do it. And then also, newborn babies are going to be getting that 300 pula to support newborn babies, which is still also, I think, a very good thing. But then also the key thing in here is our expenditure patterns in terms of education and healthcare remain amongst the largest beneficiaries, which basically says there's a commitment from this government to support the education system and reform it, as it's also spoken about.
That's why I got the
vocational
high
education
budget
training.
Yeah.
And then also you look into healthcare, and you're looking at a system where we have very clear goals to go in there and curb the wastage started in there.
Yes, I was happy
particularly-
about the Sekitumile Masire being trained into a training and research center as well.
Exactly,
adding
or
into that,
rather,
yes.
I could just say to you, as my, having Sekitumile Masire doing what it was intended to do, which is
Yes.
basically being a hospital that still trains, but
Yes.
nevertheless being a hospital that decon just the other hospitals around.
Okay, but I'm still worried. Let me hear how the gentleman here he's a member of the society. They've invited him here like other people, to share with us exactly what he has been seeing. Kindly introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Launi Renka.
Yes.
So,
What do you see? What do you hear? Ubona.
okay, as a young person, I'm disappointed but not disappointed.
Okay.
Looking at the current budget and the current state of the country, I was expecting our new government to come up with something that can generate money for this country again, that can create something for the young people to up their standard of living. Haralebella, the way they have divided the money, I think they forgot the young people, especially those in entrepreneurship. They should have covered that, and then again they should have made the budget so easier for almost everyone. Again, Haralebella, the employment, they didn't cover anything about the employment. How are they going to generate employment? How are they going to create employment for the young people?
Oh, okay. Maybe with those 2-3 factors you've raised,
Yeah.
since I'll let him help us navigate, understand where Ndaba Rendaba to cope with it. Yes.
So I think one of the things, we must always think about, what is a budget? Again, it offers a broad framework of what is going to happen with the country over the next year financially.
Yes.
But it is not, there's some, somewhere the same way. There are certain, he's going to give you a broad outline. Or the Minister of Youth, for instance, will get this, right? He will not necessarily go into the specific programs under the ministry.
Projects
or
and
youth.
programs, yes.
If you look about, you look at jobs, which is fair. When you speak about the major projects, particularly if you look into energy and solar and the likes,
Yes.
you're also talking about jobs. He spoke also about, for instance, the budget just the police and talked about absorbing special constables, right? That speaks to jobs. If you look into what you're doing also in the Ministry of Health, we're looking, for instance, at absorbing the so-called other cadres of healthcare workers, your paramedics, your farm technicians, and others. So that is also jobs. So the budget speech may not necessarily quite give you the sum total of jobs that are going to be created. But if you listen very carefully into the reforms that are going to be there, it's jobs. So I think at some point, sector by sector, there may be need for a breakdown that actually says this is what we're going to be doing with job creation. But then also, quite importantly, we are emerging from a crisis, or we are at a crisis point.
Yes.
Hamoloitsi Adutamaiti. What is the first thing you do? Before everything else, the first thing you do, you try to diagnose as to what the problem may be. And thereafter, you try to patch them up so that they don't hemorrhage any further. So this economy in this country is at a point where it needs us to stop the rot. And then once you've stopped the rot, you are then able to do the rest of what needs to be done.
Yes.
So we are in a position where we must be very honest with our people. We are at a point where the first thing we must do is to stop the decline. I would like for more or for people to just dispute on the basis of whether it can actually help us stop the roads.
Yes, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Actually, because government is the biggest employer,
Yeah.
biggest purchaser, where you were speaking about procurement system
Yes.
that allows and legitimize corruption in tenders and all of this and whatnot,
Exactly.
which I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how we are going to achieve
Yeah.
reforming it, because that's where the major problem begins. That's where the problem begins. So, well, since our time is limited, I think maybe you were hoping to hear vividly about what government has for the creatives,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
that is the main thing. That we
Maybe satisfy him. I think I heard something,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
I
we can
wouldn't
wrap it
be-
up.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite be in a position where I say to you,
Mm.
there's gonna be this and this and this and this. But then
Yes.
what is there is in the broad outline of government,
Mm.
you can already tell that we're going to refashion funding
Yes.
such that creatives and creative activities can actually also get to be funded. That's one of the things that the vice president will speak about, to say, look, we have had a situation where for the longest time we see the arts and the creatives as just another way to just play. So now we're going to revolutionize funding such that then the creative sector is able to get funded and contribute meaningfully
Yes.
to the economy.
Yes.
So there will be details that will
Mm.
come in over the next couple of days.
Mm.
Keep getting details from each sector.
Of course.
So I don't want to speak about other people's sectors because it is for them to then come out and then unpack everything that they've got. One of the things, for instance, also that speaks to young people is research and development.
Yes.
To basically speak to our reforming our laws and funding around research and development.
Yes.
A lot of young people are innovators, but then we've not been funding research and development enough. So if you speak about funding it now, it also says creativity will get to be funded going forward.
Yes.
But then the individual sectors and ministers will speak to specific aspects under their ministries. I don't want to.
Okay.
delve
I
too
saw
much
you
into-
smiley when they,
Yeah.
I saw you smiley when they declared the health budget. What was going on?
Oh yeah, well it's
Hey.
money is never enough,
Yes, yes.
but it is something to work with.
Yes.
With all the measures we're putting into place to ensure that our procurement systems are fairer, to ensure that we actually get value for money, I think it is something to work with.
Maybe 2 or 3 key priorities in your ministry with your budget before
Yeah.
we wrap it up. What,
Yeah.
what are your key priorities?
Yeah, of
in
course.
health?
One of our biggest priorities is to do the groundwork to put into place a national health insurance scheme. That is one of the key things that we're doing,
Yes.
which will then shape our healthcare system for the long term, right? But then the next thing is, the digitization of our provision of healthcare.
Yes.
We are in an era where you should be here, and then your doctor could be in Johannesburg, and
Yes.
then he's working with other providers here who are not necessarily specialists. And then through telemedicine, they're able to get to the assistance that you need.
Yes.
That is what I'm excited about. But
Okay.
then also, we generally need to be in a position where we can do the basics,
Yes.
provide medicines,
Yes.
have ambulances up on the road and running, be in a position where you are able to also hire other cadres or categories of healthcare practitioners who can then alleviate the burden that has been traditionally on the nurses, where,
Yes.
for instance, nurses would have to be in a position where they're dispensing medicines, where they're doing a lot of escort services to take a patient from, who's been referred from one referral facility to another. So we are in a position where we can reset the whole thing such that then we can provide the basics.
But maybe close with that, because I was hoping that maybe one of your priorities, maybe it's because we don't have time. Nurses Union has been complaining, especially about salaries and working hours for nurses. I don't know where you place it as we wrap it up.
I think part of the reason why the nurses would complain is also because they're overworked in some cases. You find that they have to do multiple categories of things. But then now, if you're in a position where you can let other people do their work, let paramedics do
Their way, yes.
paramedic work, let pharmacists do pharmaceutical work, let everyone else do
What they are supposed
what
to
they're
be
supposed
doing.
to do.
Yes.
Because
yes,
then
yes.
once everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing, then the level of being overworked and exhaustion also get to be reduced a bit. And once it's reduced, then the level of complaints will also automatically get to be reduced.
It
And
can
then, like
be
I said,
scalable, yes.
yeah, your national health insurance will also open up avenues for people to be able to access healthcare from other providers, which will then decongest the public health system.
Fantastic.
You know, thank you to Mina Masiri function as a hospital, because it's like one of our flagship facilities.
Yeah.
Will also then put us in a position where Marina, for instance, is decongested. So we
Yeah.
are going to overall see, you know, better delivery of healthcare in the country.
Oh, brilliant. Thank
Yeah.
you. I know we will
Thank you so
continue
much for
engaging on
continuing.
this. I
Yeah.
want you one-on-one so that we can come and unpack
I am
the
ready. So you
health
call me
issues
and
and
we
get
can
to
come and
understand.
unpack these things.
And
Yeah.
also try to
Yeah.
convince you to find a different name.
Yeah.
Now, comrade, you are already elite and leave me with my name alone.
Oh yeah, this is quite interesting. You know, stallion remains a stallion. I remain of the people.
yes, yes.
So the name stays. Yeah.
So for you, I would like to say maybe let's go over this, because when the minister is speaking about roads, the budget for roads, he spoke so many bridges and so many roads that are going to be developed.
Yeah.
I see jobs also behind
you.
these projects and whatnot, but I think maybe the question is to break it apart and get direct meaning and what maybe it means to you as an individual, and we get maybe to try and unpack it in a language that also allows you to understand it and participate in it. So on my part, I'll still think that it's a bit early. The budget just came out today. Like I'm saying, I also have mixed feelings. I need to go and study it and interrogate it so that I can be able to air out a fair opinion on what it means to me. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, no, maybe there's quite a lot that you are missing just from first reading. I was with the Assistant Minister of Health, Honorable Lawrence Wokeditse, and my friend here, you said Kunye. Laone, and my friend Laone here. I think please stay tuned as I go for a quick break. I'll be having the chairman of Botswana Climate Change Network joining us for us to just try and understand what this budget has. Is it green or yellow? Stay tuned.
Oh! Whoa! She's the first lady to hit over the fence, to hit a tent over the fence.
Thank you for staying tuned in the Kinsigito Horeletlang. We are having quite interesting conversation. It's the inaugural day of the budget speech of the first UDC government. we've been having quite exciting discussions with different people of different personalities and expertise. Right now, I'm joined by Dr. Douglas Rasbash, who is the chairman of Botswana Climate Change Network. I just want him to come and assist us to unpack the budget in a way that we can understand if there is any green conversation in this budget. Dr. Douglas, how are you?
Thank you very much, Lawrence.
Are you
Good
well?
to be here.
That's great.
Not bad, thank you very
that's
much.
Great.
Not
that's
bad.
Great. Yes. I enjoy reading your articles, by the way, actually.
Oh,
Yes. Mr. Douglas, you heard the budget. What is your take? What is your opinion on it?
well, we were looking for to sort of see how green this budget
Yes.
was. We were looking for signs which showed if any attention's being played to making the budget as green as it possibly can be. And by green, we don't necessarily mean the sort of fringe things that are associated with being green. We mean things like efficiency. If resources are used more efficiently, that's always a greener choice to make, to do more with less. And indeed, we got the impression that for the first part of the budget, efficiency, key efficiency, reducing waste, was very important to the Minister of Finance, to the VP, and that was very good to hear. To make sure that the resources that we had were used as effectively as possible. Yes.
Spread across.
That's a really good takeaway. Now, just how that is going to be measured is another matter. And as a general point, I would observe that this, like previous SONAs and budget speeches, seems to be devoid of outcomes. It's outcomes.
Okay.
Yes, outcomes. You know, we might say that we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, or we're going to spend these amounts of money, but what will it actually achieve? You see, how many? We talked about youth unemployment, but how much will this budget reduce it? There's not really much of an attempt to sort of quantify the outcomes. Most of it is qualitative, without any quantitative, metrics there. And there should be. Youth unemployment, as he said, 40%. By the end of the 5 years, if this is the start, what is it going to try to get it down to? It's very, very important that budgets have aims, objectives and outcomes expected, and it's no different to previous budgets, and that's a pity really, because I would have liked to have believed that the Second Republics would have a different approach to public expenditure. Public expenditure is a means to an end, whereas you get the impression with the numbers and all that sort of thing come right at the end, and the numbers seem to be pretty much an end to themselves. A bit more than last year, a bit less than this year, and so what?
Yes.
And that's a big observation.
When I was sitting with another guest here, he highlighted that to him that he doesn't think that there's anything new in the budget. Stuff like that Botswana is supposed to move away from diamonds, from a diamond-led economy to an export-led economy, and diversify into other sectors. It's a kind of a chorus that we've been preaching for the past I don't know how many years, 3 decades or so. And the previous government obviously goes out of power, having not entirely achieved to diversify the economy. Do you think with these promises and this budget that we are having, are we moving somewhere?
No. With Gab's commentary team, we had a sugar coating index. We said before the budget, we'd hope this budget is not sugar coating. The people of Botswana deserve more than hearing a sugar coated budget. We really want to know how it is. And to some extent towards the end, in the last third of the budget speech, he did say how serious the situation was, that we're almost out of savings, we have to increase our borrowing.
The coffers are empty.
The coffers are empty, exactly. And there's no real indications how they're going to be sort of replenished, and that there were serious times ahead. But at the same time, there was an optimism, and I think misplaced, that just as the previous Minister of Finance did in her last budget, they claimed that there'd be a sort of rapid turnaround from minus 4% growth in the last quarter 2024 to suddenly plus 3 point something percent the last quarter of 2025, and the assumption that diamond prices are going to kick up, and that's what's going to help spur the growth. There's absolutely no evidence of it. There's no evidence that diamond.
So with the
revenues
diamonds,
are
we are
going to
pinning it on
return.
hope that the markets will turn around, but we have the COVID-19 issue in China, which, if not contained, could generally affect imports and exports globally. Do you think that we could realize a rise in the purchasing of diamonds in no time?
I don't. And I wrote only last week that I think that by 2036, our per capita GDP would fall by $1,000. There's no way, having passed the tipping point with the synthetic diamonds, that the market for our diamonds is going to turn around. There's no evidence for it at all. It's been declined for the last 9 years in terms of demand, and it's only increasing. The market share of gem diamonds is 22%. The market share of industrial diamonds is 67%. I'm talking about synthetic diamonds. So there's almost no market now for natural diamonds being used by industry, and the gem diamonds are going to follow. I'm very sad to see, and so the budget still believes that diamonds are going to contribute 20% of the revenue, or even more, 22%. He didn't say, but that's what the implication is. I don't think it's going to happen, honestly, Lawrence. I don't.
Okay, earlier on I've been trying to say that we get the picture, we know the problem. We are we are on quicksand, basically. We are in a hole. We know that. Are there solutions? Have we had solutions? Okay, I for one had the tax increase issue on top earners and all the likes, and maybe the reforms on VAT, on the digital trading platforms and all the likes, which I think could help raise money for government. What else that is of positive that you hear that at least we should pin onto it as a low-hanging fruit?
Well, we have to move from a factor-driven economy to an efficiency-driven economy. We have to do more with less. And it's a fundamental change. We have to have a decoupled economy where consuming more electricity, well, it may seem like a good thing because some people they don't have electricity, but actually, if we think of the economy as our household, we wouldn't go out of our way to consume more electricity. We'd say, hey, turn that off. Let's be careful. When we buy a fridge or a washing machine, we want it to be AAA rated, so we're consumption of energy, and the same applies to all. The national economy should be the same thing. We shouldn't be sort of saying, well, let's increase our, consumption of energy per se. This isn't very green. It's not a good thing to project a massive increase in energy without saying how much the economy is going to increase.
Yes.
See,
is it an issue of we need behavioral change?
If we saw a doubling in demand for electricity without a doubling in GDP, that is a very serious problem. We cannot do that. And I didn't get that sense from the Minister of Finance that there was a connection between what is being spent, the resources are being allocated, and the impact on the economy. I didn't see the dots being joined up. We leave that 3-hour budget speech with no idea of really where the growth is coming from, other than diamonds.
But is it not maybe the approach that let's raise some funds, and then we can be able to plan when we have figured out how we are going to raise some funds?
Say that again.
Is it not are they not taking an approach that, look, what we found here is a dire situation. We came, we made some promises, and we were going to deliver 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 items. But right now, because of the situations and the reality that we find ourselves in, maybe before we can promise to implement too many things at a time, let's try to raise revenue for government. Do you not think maybe it is that approach?
Oh, it is definitely that approach. There's no doubt about it. The UDC promises on minimum wages and youth unemployment unemployment coming down, creating 500,000 jobs that they put in their manifesto. You don't get a feeling from this budget as to how many jobs how the unemployment rate is going to go down or how many jobs are going to be created. It's a first budget, isn't it?
Yes,
so yes, it partially goes along the way of explaining how it is that diamonds are no longer going to be relied upon as being the main source of government revenue. It's going to be other things, and that's fine. That's a very good thing to say. What is disappointing from a green point of view is that there's not an understanding that the green economy is a better economy than a resource-driven economy, and that hasn't come across. There are a lot of green things that can be done, which are growth generators.
So in the context of that, you are the green economy expert and all the likes. Tell me why this matters quite a lot and should be a government priority. How is it going to help us turn around our misfortunes?
Well, like I said, the green economy means doing more with less. It means being more efficient. It means actually being less intensive, less transport intensive, less electricity intensive, less water intensive. And economic intensity is a measure of how much of these resources you need for 1 unit of GDP.
Your consumption.
It's partly that, yes. I mean, in terms of electricity intensivity, that is a unit of measurement which is very important. So how many kilowatts of electricity does Botswana need to produce 1 unit of GDP? And we shouldn't want to see it go up, we should want to see it go down.
Okay.
With transport, how many units of transport do we need to produce 1 unit of more with less? And so you would want to see these.
We should cost save. We should walk. We should cycle.
Well, this is where you start to go down. Long hairs and sandals, or let's go by bike. It's good for you and so on. No, but the thing is about electric vehicles. Let's just talk about electric vehicles. That's a very green thing to do. But more than that. It would save about 10% of our GDP if we didn't import diesel and petrol and so on.
Yes.
And it was all replaced by home-produced electricity. It would have a massive impact on our GDP.
Tie it in for me easily then,
so
because you were
thing.
saying that we are having a negative a GDP that is in decline by negative 24%.
Yes.
And maybe with the factors that you are raising, how does that directly turn around our GDP fortunes?
Very easily, because we import 1.8 billion litres of fuel. It costs 16 to 20, depending on the world price of fuel, 16 to 20 billion pula we spend importing fuel. We don't produce any fuel ourselves, obviously. So it all comes in from Dubai or wherever and so on. That's 20 billion pula. And our GDP is 230 billion pula. So 10 on 20, it's 20 on 20, it's almost 10%. Right? As you know, with the GDP calculation, imports are negative.
Yes.
Imports are negative. So the more you import, the lower your GDP.
Of course, because
absolutely. So you can start to become more energy self-sufficient and produce our own energy for transport. In the long term, we can save. We can increase GDP by 10%. Instead of money going out, and hard currency as well. It's not pula.
Maybe a minister should just have only one car.
Well, there are at least
The
5
government budget
electric
and all
cars
the like.
running
Yeah,
around the
in
place.
reality, that's the context. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day,
So going
if I
green
have
is
four
very
cars,
good
if I
for the
have four vehicles at my house, basically all leaving the house in the morning, spending fuel, and obviously they are a household expense. Maybe I'm beginning to understand where you are going with this. So, do you see that in the budget?
No, I mean the word electric vehicle didn't appear at all. I mean, I will do a word search on the written budget when I get it. I'll convert it to Word, and
Yes, I don't even
you
want
know,
to talk about the
you know the
electric
kind of thing I
vehicle.
do. So I'll be searching for green things. And as my colleague mentioned, one of the greenest things they mentioned was repeatedly was disaster
Okay.
relief, drought, so on and so on.